Good evening, Blue Jays fans. Welcome to another evening of Jay Bird Watching, your Toronto Blue Jays Barroom Chat, the official podcast of fansided.com, jaysjournal.com. This evening, have a couple special guests with us. We have Ken Alfred of a few different podcasts and voiceovers and all over the internet, trying his hat with the Blue Jays tonight, and not just his Toronto Argonauts shirt.
What
And then we
Argonaut
also
shirts?
have it's not. Sorry.
I'm kidding. It is.
So, and then we have Blue Jays dad with us from Twitter on Blue Jays fans, Nate, fame. Gentlemen, how are we doing this evening?
Doing all right. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Happy to be on the show and to ride this wave.
Yeah, we are in a heck of an up and down wave at this point, but mostly up after last night in the Vladdy walk-off. Another wonderful evening from Kevin Gausman on the mound. So let's just dive into the fun, guys. Tonight, the Blue Jays are currently playing at the Rogers Center, leading by one after a George Springer home run. But there is that wonderful wild card that we have on the hill this evening, and his name is Jose Barrios. So Mr. Blue Jays dad, you want to give me the 411 on your thoughts on what has been a wave ride for the Blue Jays and Jose Barrios over the last week?
Yeah, Jose Barrios, obviously, well, not obviously, but he's my favorite pitcher. Like when you just talk about favorite personalities, approach, stuff, he's the one that I have the most fun watching, the one that I want to succeed the most on the team. I know he's got some competition that way with Manoah and Gausman and others, but he's kind of my guy since the Jays acquired him from the Minnesota Twins last summer. That was big news down here where I am in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. Depending on which fans you talk to, we were getting hosed or they were getting hosed. I was actually talking to a fan here in Starbucks yesterday talking about Barrios, and I'm like, yeah, I was describing his struggles about how he's lights out and then he can't get out of an inning. And that's the fan said, yeah, that sounds like Jose Barrios. So, that's not the best news in the world, but I think I saw a tweet earlier today that Barrios is 7-1 at home. And I believe that one loss was opening day. I think I didn't look into that, but I'm pretty sure it's opening day where I think Jose Barrios, out of anyone on the Jays staff, was heavily impacted by a shortened spring training. And maybe that's a part of his struggles that just lasted the whole year. Obviously, we all know what it feels like when you throw a ball without warming up. And I can hardly imagine what that would, just on a much bigger scale, ramping your arm up before to competitive levels and then competing with that before you've had your normal work up to that. So anyway, I'm a huge Barrios fan. We thought maybe he'd be a number one, but he's now probably more of a number five, but a five that can come out there with an ace performance. So what I liked about the Jays rotation heading into this year was a lot of swing and miss type of stuff from these starters. And I think when you start Gausman, Manoah, and hopefully Barrios versus any club in MLB, they have the stuff to be able to get swings and misses out of their best hitters. So I'm hoping for better things for Barrios, more consistency as the postseason begins, and hopefully to the World Series.
So you brought up an interesting point, and funny enough, with you being a Minnesota Twins fan and me being in what used to be the Minnesota Twins' minor league team here in Rochester, New York, I got to see even earlier Barrios, and this has been a story all the way through until current. The ups, the downs. It just hasn't been this extreme. There was always he'd throw an egg in the middle of some of those starts, but it would be like a 4-run start, not like our opening day start. He gave up 6 runs, I think, in the first inning, and then didn't even make it past 2 outs. So it's how it is, but it's been a roller coaster to that point. I'm going to let Ken field this piece of the conversation that I think you touched on here pretty well, and the fact is warming up and actually getting to where you need to for a season. And this is a piece of for all baseball players this year that got severely interrupted with the lockout and spring training being delayed and then shortened. How much do you think that weighed into the fact that he just wasn't ready when the season started and those training issues have lingered throughout the season?
Yeah, I mean, you brought up a good point. Like you said, I like the analogy that he was talking about, just trying to warm up and just not throwing with a cold arm. That's what it kind of seemed like he was doing with that shortened season. With that shortened warm up. Yeah, that's going to really throw a monkey wrench into it. Because how long is the warm ups normally? So they remind me again, how many games, or sorry, how much time do we have in between?
It's about 2 games, and then, but it's over the course of about 4 or 5 weeks spring training usually. So
Yeah,
that's
so
a
4 to 5.
window that got shoved down into like 2.5 weeks this year.
Oh God, that 2.5 weeks. No, that if not to say that most players are probably just easing up during the off season. I'm sure that is the case, but you need to peak. And I used to be a personal trainer back in the day. So when I used to train my clients, I'd always try to make sure, when are you going to peak at the right time, especially when they were a client, especially when they were an athlete. So I think that totally
Yep.
translates into this game right now. Like if you do not have enough time to really get all the nooks and crannies kind of worked out on, you're definitely going to struggle. Like rushing it is not a good thing. It's never a good thing.
I think you hit the other part of that whole equation too, there, Ken, as far as the peak. We haven't seen him peak fully this year. It's been the ups and downs, like we've been talking.
Absolutely.
Blue Jays dad, do you think that he peaks at the right time here, that he at least becomes a valuable piece at back end with Alek Manoah, Gosman, and what has been an emergent Ross Stripling that has been locked down? And I don't know how you take step back and think in a 5-game series to start the playoffs off with, that you're not thinking it's those 3 guys starting it. So you run with that however you might.
No, I think you gotta look at Barrios as
Live
these are
TV.
just for show. These are just for show.
Just for show.
Yeah, I think you got to go with Barrios. In your postseason rotation ahead of Stripling, because of his ability to have an ace level start. And if you can get that from your number 3, which looks like a deep drive to center field caught by Springer on the warning track. If you can get
excellent play-by-play skills.
You can, I think you just have to have Barrios on a short leash. I think it's pretty evident when he doesn't have it. And this is I don't mean to change subjects, but I think what we saw from John Schneider last night, walking Aaron Judge to load the bases, to move that runner to third and load the bases. You see that John Schneider is willing and skilled, gutsy, courageous at managing aggressively when the game needs to be managed. We didn't see that with Charlie Montoyo. He would stick with kind of the status quo and be very hands-off. I'm excited that much like John Gibbons managed in the 2015 division series, R.A. Dickey on a short leash, brings in David Price in middle of the game, relieving when you have a do-or-die game the next day, too. You had Game 5 coming up, and then he went with Stroman in that game. So anyway, I like aggressive managing. I think Barrios will benefit from John Schneider and short leash for his starts, but he's got that potential for an ace outing, and that's what I'm going to be hoping for.
Interesting.
Yeah, and go ahead.
No, I was going to say, what is your guys' thoughts on when he did walk Judge, I guess, near the end of the game yesterday to load the bases? Was that a good thing, or was it a bad thing in your opinion? Because I'm sure Aaron Judge is close to really breaking the record. And I think I chatted with Craig about this before. I think no pitcher, especially a Blue Jay pitcher, wants to be the one that gives up that home run. So would you guys have done the same thing, or do you think you would have, changed it up and just say, let the pitcher try to test his luck against Judge?
Jay's dad, you're the guest. You get to go first.
Absolutely the right thing. I mean, it made me nervous pitching to Rizzo with the bases loaded. Obviously, any type of a pass ball or infield hit's going to score a run, but or a walk. I mean, that's the nervous part about loading the bases, is that now you cannot issue a base on balls. But with Judge at the plate, you got to do it. You can't let him beat you in that situation. And Yeah, I think it was absolutely right. I don't think Charlie Montoyo makes that move.
I agree with you 1,000% that Montoya doesn't make that move. My worry with Montoya was he was always too married to the stat sheet and he was only going by the data. I love that Schneider will take that into consideration, but it's not the gospel to him. He'll go with his gut, and we've seen that. But back to the Aaron Judge thing, I don't see how you don't want their best player to beat you. And I think that's what it is at the end of the day, because Aaron Judge, I'm sorry to say, is one of the best players in Major League Baseball at this moment, and he's just shredding everybody. So, and not to mention, I think Gosman said it best. I don't want to be the answer to a trivia question.
Yeah,
So,
that's a great way to put it.
Absolutely.
so I think he walked, and it doesn't even matter who's batting behind him. Rizzo is a high caliber player, one way or the other, and he's having a really good resurgent year. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's at 30 home runs, and he hasn't done that in a few years.
32,
So
32, only
32.
because he's up right now, and they had his stats up there right now, and so I was appearing smart, but I'm not. It was just right in front of me.
Well, thank you for being the honest Blue Jays dad that you are.
I'm
And,
usually trustworthy.
So, but to that point, he's no slouch, Yeah, he's a guy that's got a lot of swinging and miss in his game, but he has been a plus run producer his whole career with plenty of thunder. And he's playing in a stadium like the Rogers Center that is death alley down both both lines, which is where he pulls the damn ball down the right field line. So there was
just
no.
as you said that, he just batted in a run. Right when you
Yep.
said run producing, the player
It hasn't shown up on my
plate.
feed yet.
And, sorry, spoiler alert. I've been known to spoil big at bats at MLB stadiums with live video. So I'm
Did you
sorry
see
about
that?
See what?
I don't know what you're talking about. So, but just to be this guy, because I'm the weird one that's in Rochester, New York, I can't watch the damn ball game right now unless I go through 3 VPNs and bounce my signal off of 5 satellites because it's a New York Yankees state. Yeah,
Oh my
and then
goodness.
if I do get to listen to it, I get to listen to the lovely Michael Kay, who can't even pronounce half the guys' names on the Toronto Blue Jays. So,
Have you seen the pronunciation sheets that you can get on MLB's websites? Each team has a list of names and how to say them.
I've been in broadcast booths that they give you those sheets, and Michael Kay still ignores it.
Oh my goodness!
I'm talking minor league baseball. I used being a member of Jay's Journal and doing this for as long as I have been doing. I've had the pleasure of meeting all the minor league announcers through the Blue Jays system, and being a good friend of the Bluefield Blue Jays when they were still part of the affiliates. Zach Helton would let me come and just hang out in the booth with him. Guess what he had in his hand all the time for the opposing teams? And then same thing as I went through the Lansing Lugnuts and hung out with Jesse Goldberg Strassler and all those guys. They always had a sheet that this is how you say the guy's name. Run with it.
Okay, so answer this question. What's the craziest experience you had in your experience of broadcasting and being in that scene in the minor leagues? Tell me your craziest story.
So it was in Bluefield, shocking. In the middle of nowhere in West Virginia, that will happen. And I was in the booth with Zach Helton, and I was the third guest that night. He had Smokey the Bear and Grady Little, of all people.
Wow.
Now, if you don't know who Grady Little is, for the casual baseball fan or anybody that is a Blue Jays fan and doesn't like the Red Sox, shocking. Grady Little is the manager that was infamously known for being the guy that left Pedro Martinez on the mound a little bit too long in 2003, which led to a Yankee comeback and the Red Sox getting knocked out of the postseason. So the story goes, Grady Little got his minor league baseball managing career started for, at the time, was the Bluefield Orioles. They got off to some horrid start where they went like 0 for 20 or something like that, or won like 2 games out of 20 games, whatever it was. apparently he comes in, and this is a story he told us in the box that night. And I'm just sitting there because I didn't have a microphone at that point, just absorbing this, baseball gentleman's years of knowledge. And he's telling that he took all the bats out of the bat rack and kind of like planted them like tombstones on the outfield warning track and said, "This is where hits go to die tonight. We're gonna win tonight." So just the pleasure of being in the right place at the right time to gather that story. But oh my God, where do you get something weird like that?
Right. That's very cool.
So
this history lesson brought to you by Jay Bird Watching.
Thank you for the soundbite, guy. And then the other second weird one, I was in the ballpark one of the nights where Jesse Goldberg Strasser does it for the Lansing Lugnuts. He does a game old school where he gets everything relayed to him and he's sitting there doing like the click with the bat and everything like that for the radio and the announcing in the ballpark. That was entertaining to watch because, like I said, he's doing everything being relayed to him through like counts and hand signals. And
I didn't know about that whole thing until I was watching some baseball movies, and I was like, oh, they actually make those sound effects like that. This is when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, wow, good to know.
Yeah, Bull Durham especially. I loved how they showed that for the away games and stuff.
Yeah.
So, anyways, we were talking Aaron Judge and walking through it. So after we got
sidetracked into this
sidetracked
in
the fun
history.
Stories.
Yes.
So eventually that inning, because like we were about to dive into this anyway, so thank you for reading ahead of the script. The Toronto Blue Jays end up getting out of that inning and progress into more in the bottom half of extra innings. Kevin Biggio starts on second base, and that inning turns into what looked like was going to be a frowner for the Blue Jays in that inning for a second after Bo Bichette hits an absolute scream that Aaron Judge in his wicked tallness happens to catch. Blue Jays dad, do you want to give me the play-by-play, seeing you were doing such a good job on the Vladdy walk-off?
Well, yeah, I had the same sense, 2 outs, and I thought, they weren't going to maybe pull it off that inning. And there's a sense now where extra innings, I don't know if I'm wrong about this, but it seems like extra innings now goes into the visiting team's favor, where it's like right away the home team could have their backs up against the wall pretty easily because of that runner on second. But I was surprised after thinking about it why they didn't walk Vladdy.
Same argument.
And even who was after Vladdy? Kirk,
who had been doing pretty well that night.
Yeah, so you could even have walked both of them and loaded up the bases, because a single is going to score that runner from second because there's 2 out. It doesn't matter. Right. That runner's going on anything. So to put him over at third increases the risk just a little bit, but not terribly much. And I don't know. Do you want Vladdy to beat you? I don't.
The biggest thing is that would create force outs at all the bases too. So no matter where you hit it, you'd be able to get to somebody. And to that point, also Matt Chapman would have been the batter, I think.
Yeah, and I think even though Chapman's been hot lately, he's already up to 27. Already. We're at the end of the season, but 27 dingers. It didn't look like he was going to get close to 30, and now he's right up there, close to the team lead. So, I think you got to walk Vladdy in that situation at least. Yeah.
What are you thinking, Ken? Do you think that it turned out in perfect harmony with the Blue Jays getting a 117-mile-an-hour single? I think is what it ended up being.
Yep. Whatever helps get us to that one step closer to the playoffs, I'm all for. So yes, absolutely. Looks like it played right into our hands right there. So Vladdy, because I was worried about him when I was watching the last few games against, I think it was the last team we played. It was against Tampa, where he was kind of like struggling for a few of those games. There was like 0 for 4, and then suddenly he started coming alive near the end of the game. So I was glad to see him really help out in this last game as well. That brought us to that one step closer. So hopefully he'll
Puts the
turn
magic
on
number right at 3.
It's right at 3 right now. I think are we down right now? Blue Jay dead. I'm just on
2-1
on
the
the
bottom of the third, and Merrifield is up.
Oh.
Yep, there you go. Speaking of
Judge has
guys
not
that
hit,
had a hell of a night.
and Judge has not hit a home run yet, so that's why we're nothing yet.
No, although if I was there and positioning myself for an Aaron Judge home run ball catch, I would bring my own baseball. And when that ball came down, I would bounce mine. I'd bounce it, distract everybody, and run and grab the authenticated one.
Look what I found.
They're all pre-authenticated, so you're not gonna, ruin the
Not gonna
baseball
fool them
world.
with baseball.
Yeah, you're just gonna distract them.
All right, gentlemen, would you keep the ball if you caught it, or would you actually give it back?
I don't know. I think it would depend on the player. Aaron Judge's, I think I'm happy putting on my mantle because you know what? I'm not a Yankee fan because I don't want him to be happy.
Yeah. How about you, a baseball Blue Jay dad? Sorry.
It's gonna be worth $1 million. So,
yeah.
I mean, you want to give away $1 million to someone that makes, hundreds of millions. I just I think that you got to hold on to that ball. I mean, Albert Pujols is saying that the fans can keep it, but obviously we're talking about collectors. We're not just talking about the player. We're talking about collectors. I think you got to take that ball, you got to hide that thing, and you got to book it out of that stadium. Forget the loony dogs. Just get out of there.
Well, no, I'm all for keeping it too, but then I know if my wife, Mrs. K, was here, she's like, we can get $1 million for that.
And it's just sitting there.
It's just sitting there. You better give it back. You take the $1 million. We could use that $1 million. I'm like, but how often is anyone ever going to break this record, right? I mean, when was the last time this happened again? It was when?
99. No,
well, right now
99 was Mark McGwire and Sosa.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. McGwire Sosa days.
Well, this will be the all-time record for the American League. So this hasn't been done since Roger Maris. So this is a big one. This is like the all-time American League home run title. So I think you got to take that ball, you got to run, you got to sell it to the highest bidder a few weeks later.
Yeah, and then to be this one, he had 61 in 61. 1961, just to be fun with numbers.
Oh boy.
Right.
So
yeah,
sorry, engineer by day, math nerd.
Awesome.
So, but to that point, I thought I got to mention this to you too because I had Ian Hunter on the show the other day from the Daily Hive, and we were talking about, he had an article out recently. It was about the random merchandise that was out in Blue Jays auction website. And I just want to get a reaction from the two of you on this because this has dawned on me. One of the things was the weirdest thing I've ever seen, and it's technically Blue Jays merchandise. And it's apparently they have broken pieces of the old Jumbotron in center field up into little foot by foot sections, and they're selling them for like $400.
Really?
Yeah. It's not like you're going to wire the whole Jumbotron in your room.
Did they break them up according to pixel? Because
that's basically what I think it was.
It wasn't high definition back then, so it's like, here's a pixel.
Here's a pixel.
Yeah. I want one of the ones that like Delgado broke a piece of it or something like that, not the fully functional. It's been there for 1 million years, doesn't have any story to it. Because all everybody's going to do is, why do you have random electronics hanging on your wall?
How do you authenticate stuff like that, though, man? It's like a broken piece of the Jumbotron. How do you, it's like saying I have Michael Jackson's glove.
Conversation piece,
right?
Yeah, it's a good point. Unless they way too much video history diving there. So
either case,
one of the other ones was crap. I'm blanking. Oh, dirt from the home game from the return from COVID. From the infield.
Yeah. Is there COVID included in the dirt? Because that.
I don't know about that.
As a guy that's already had it 3 times, and I'm vaccinated, by the way. I'm okay not having to deal with it anymore. Go.
How about this one? How about, why don't they start selling? Like I was thinking last night, I was watching the game and I saw this big wad of bubble gum come out of Aaron Judge's mouth. Like, why not? And then I had a few thoughts.
Quick sell it.
Does the bat boy need to pick this stuff up? Like, it's artificial turf. It's just going to be all sticky and everything. So
have a little piece of tire in it.
And then like Kevin Gosman does that every inning. He chucks his gum after the umpire checks his hands and before he walks in. So is this like a routine that the bat boy's got to run out and get that piece of gum every inning? But here's the big question. Is Aaron Judge's bubble gum, is that worth something? Like if that bat boy picked it up, put it on eBay, this is his piece of gum from his 61st home run hitting game. That's gonna land him a few hundred at least.
So just to be
Wow.
this guy.
Like this. Think about it like this. Joe Carter, let's say he was chewing bubble gum when he hit the 93 World Series winner and he spit it on the ground and then that's
somebody grabs it.
Someone grabbed it.
Jay's Care auction. That would go for something.
Well, I think what they currently have on the auction, or it's part of the 50-50 draw or whatever, is that 1993 autograph team Gatorade cooler, right? It's not any different than that. It looks like one of them just sat there and freaking hacked at it a million times and hey, let's autograph it and sell it to charity.
Great idea.
So just to be this guy and not to be terribly gross or anything, but I heard this during I'm a big comedy buff and I love listening to roasts and stand-up comedy and everything. During the roast of Charlie Sheen, William Shatner was one of the roasters. And he comes up and he's talking about, oh, Charlie Sheen, you think you're the warlock? I sold one of my kidney stones online at an auction. And it turned it into a full-on house for Habitat for Humanity. Who's the warlock?
Wow.
So somebody will buy it. Just saying.
Wow.
So fun with history.
Fun with history.
And then the last stupid thing that was on there was it was Blue Jays adjacent. It just happened to happen in the Rogers Center. And it was baseballs that were in the game, that were in circulation on the field during Justin Verlander's no-hitter that he threw against the Blue Jays.
Oh, wow.
For the mere $125 a pop.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, like we were talking about with the Aaron Judge thing, your Blue Jays adjacent history, and there you go. That's your bubblegum cell right there.
There it is.
My biggest regret is back it was probably 2012. What was the first season Munenori Kawasaki was on the team?
And something like that. It must have been 2012 because he was on it through 2015. So it was at the earliest 2012, maybe 2013.
So I was at the Rogers Center in the J shop, and they were selling the opening day canvas banners that they would hang like from the ceilings or whatever.
Oh, from the outside of the arena and stuff? Yeah.
I guess, yeah. They were huge. Like and they were only like $50. And I think the reason I didn't get one is because how do I get this home? I mean, it was so big.
You going to Minnesota, yeah.
And
meanwhile, Ken's going to drape it down the side of his building that he lives in.
Yeah.
So that's one of my biggest regrets. Like I would just love to have a big opening day banner. Like it was the heavy canvas sign kind of stuff, you know. Anyway,
that's cool.
Yeah. All we got was a towel back in 2016. We went to the Jays opener, and it's just a little towel like this, and it's just a rally towel. And I think my cats sit on it now, so I don't know what happened to him. So
I think that's funny because I went to one in probably 2013, whatever year, the first year Benji Molina was on the team. They were giving out towels too. Yeah. I've been to a few home openers, being a whole 3.5 hours here in Rochester, New York, away from Toronto. It takes longer to get back to where I live because the U.S. border is so convenient. But it's always a good time. So, where was I going? I lost it. Okay. Is there anything you guys want to add to our fun, wonderful tangent that we just got off on?
Oh yeah, I'll tell you one small thing, and you guys are talking about the whole spitting thing about the gum and everything. I was showing my son Mr. Baseball, if you guys remember that movie, and I guess it's different when you see how it was back then, like in terms of baseball, how everything was kind of portrayed, and all you see them, they're spitting gum, they're spitting sunflower seeds, they're spitting everything, and then my son goes to me, he's like, Dad, why do they keep spitting?
Baseball players are gross.
And I just said, and I said, son, you got to spit something. That's the only thing I said to him because I didn't know what to say. I'm like, I don't know. Why do they spit so much? I'm sure their throats, their throats dry. Maybe, I don't know.
I think it's the dust and the dirt.
There you
You
go.
know, you're breathing that stuff in. It's all over the place, and then you just get addicted to spitting when you're on the field. You know, you do it for a legit reason a couple of times, then you're hooked.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned that because I didn't really notice how much I did it, even just playing slow pitch softball and goofing around with my friends, until it was like, if you want to play COVID or during COVID, you will not do these things.
Oh
And
yeah.
that was one of the things that you don't
I was
do.
about to say,
Everybody's sitting there going like this in between with hand sanitizer, handing the bat back and forth to each other and, and everything. And I'm sitting out at second base going, oh, wait, don't do that.
I was coaching travel baseball for 14-year-olds right when, well, it was the in June, right after the COVID had hit in February or March or whatever it was.
Mhm.
We were back on the field that June, and the rule was players had to sit whatever it was, 4 feet away from each other in the dugout, like spread out. How do you keep 15 14-year-olds
Kids.
all they're doing is like pushing each other and all the time? It was pretty hilarious. We did not live up to that standard.
Yeah. Not to mention, there's always that one prankster in the dugout at that age that's going to sit down on the edge of the bench and try to slide everybody down one way or whatever it might be. And Ken, seeing I know you're getting your son interested in baseball and you're trying to find more movies for him. Rookie of the Year, Little Big League.
Little Big League. There you go.
2 classic kid ones.
Exactly. Because it's funny because I coached his little league for the last 2 seasons, and he said, "Dad, I want you to coach again next season, but not coach me."
Hey, there you go. Yeah.
I'm like,
that sounds like a true kid.
I'm sure we can do something. I don't know how that would work, but why not?
How old is
He wants to delegate you to the bullpen coach.
Pretty much. My son is 8. My son Gabe is 8 years old. So,
awesome.
yeah. But anyways, back to what we were here going to chat about. Aside from talking about bodily functions of spitting stuff, and apparently kidney stones of William Shatner. So, all right. So, what was your latest thought on the last 6-game road trip that just happened?
We survived Tropicana Field is my single word evaluation.
Yeah. We survived. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I think it was finally about time that they had a couple games in a row there to run with. What are you thinking, Blue Jays dad, at least for that series?
Oh, I was happy with the split. After the first 2 games, you're like, oh my goodness, is the postseason in jeopardy? And so it's nice that they came back and split that series.
Yeah, especially after they got completely decimated those first 2 games and getting knocked around for 10 runs in each game. That was a little rough to watch, even for the most Blue Jays of Blue Jays fans. I tortured myself and kept watching it. Yeah. I think you were one of the other ones, Blue Jays dad. I remember seeing you. Is anybody still watching?
Like, nope.
I was too down. I'm like, yeah, I want to send something, but I'm okay. I'm just gonna like Charlie Brown over here. So. But to that point, then splitting with Philadelphia, who is also in the same kind of ballpark as our wild card cohorts. They're fighting for their lives to stay in this, and the Fighting Phils were able to, steal 1 game away from us, because that was, I think, a very, very winnable game, and obviously bullpen issues, which is the next topic.
Yeah, that was the 3-run homer that Vladdy hit in the 8th, correct? And then
correct, sir.
Okay, yeah, that was a heartbreaker.
Yeah, that one was very heartbreaking indeed to watch. Romano of all people, and then Bass and company also having problems, and as good as I want to say, I mind you, I'm a very big John Schneider fan, and I love everything that the team's done with him and putting him in that position and the whole how he got to there. I love the story, and he's going to be perfect for the job. Lately, some of these decisions in the bullpen have kind of at least perplexed me. The fact that Anthony Bass, of all people, who's having a great season, I think they were saying the other night he hadn't pitched for 7 days. That's a long time for a bullpen arm to, like we were talking about earlier, just stay fresh to be able to help and contribute to the team. And to that point, Jordan Romano also has come out and said repetitively that he loves the new system, that he's getting these innings consistently. He gets to chew on it, because he does feel like he's staying fresh and loose and ready to run with it. He's not overworked, just able to, keep working his craft. What do you think, Blue Jays dad, about the bullpen fun that we've been having lately?
I think when it comes to days rest, like we never know the injuries that they're facing. So, there's a lot of, even when you see guys running down first base and they're maybe not hustling, we don't know what's wrong with their legs. I think Gurriel has had something wrong with his legs
Especially.
all year long. They pinch run for him in the ninth if it's a key situation. So obviously he's been hobbled for the entire season. Bullpen arms, I would say that if you see an extended gap, I mean, for your closer, you're going to have that maybe if there weren't save situations.
Yep.
But I think in other cases, I would just assume maybe there's a bit of dead arm, some soreness, just something that they wanted to give some extra time to. And the team was under no obligation to disclose that stuff. And a lot of times you don't want to because it gives an advantage, an edge to the opponent. But yeah,
it's like tipping your hand in cards.
Right.
I can't use these cards.
Good point.
Exactly.
Good point, actually.
And about the Phillies, that game where Romano lost it, he threw 5 consecutive sliders to Kyle Schwarber, and I even asked Gibby on Twitter, like, what's up with that? Like, why 5 consecutive sliders? Because we know that the more a batter sees a pitch, the favor goes towards the batter. You're just timing it up here. And I don't know why, but Romano likes to not throw his fastball as much. And I think he just has to trust his stuff. I think he's got a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. Use that thing with the slider. But he gets slider happy, and a lot of his slider happiness happens thigh high down the middle of the plate.
It does happen,
and it's frustrating because the stuff is there if he'll go for it. So once again, seeing last night him get the swing and misses on Stanton, and then that one questionable check swing ring up. I think if you can get swings and misses like that out of your bullpen in the postseason, you're going to go a long way.
Yeah. And sorry, guys, let me ask you this then. So ideally, aside from starting pitchers, when you have the middle relievers and the closers, how much rest should they generally get, right? I mean, obviously the closer can obviously close almost every single game, right? Assuming it's just for that one inning, right? They're not going to be pushing out longer than they need to.
Yeah.
But how much does a middle reliever need?
So to your point, Blue Jays, that I would think right now it's you're looking at Romano like back-to-back days at the most, things like that. So they do sprinkle in a day's rest, 3 days at the most.
Maybe 3. Like when it's 3, that's
mission critical. And then you talk the other guys, they kind of almost hippity hop days. So if Garcia pitches one day, then Bass pitches in that same spot the next day, and they kind of keep piggybacking like that. Yesterday was an exception where they got both of them into the game, and we saw Bass had some issues struggling with his control a little bit there. But I think that every other day, within a 3-day window is the sweet spot that they want to be trying to get them to pitch in. And we have 7 guys in the bullpen right now, I think.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
it's a lot of work to juggle.
The exception is Adam Simber,
I was about to say Simber, yeah,
who last night appeared in his 162nd appearance of the year, and he says he's ready to go again tomorrow. No, he's like every night, and so my son-in-law, who's in school to be a chiropractor, he's not. We're converting him to be a baseball fan. So my daughter and he's in the family, and so he goes to the games with us and things like that. He was mentioning how it's a lot less wear and tear on an arm to throw like Simber does. And
all these muscles across your chest instead of coming over the top.
Yeah. And so that's why he's a Simber fan, because he just likes that movement. And Simber, like he had his struggles a couple weeks ago, and now he's lights out again. Jimmy Garcia, now he's going through the tough bout where it looks like he's throwing batting practice at times, for giving up some homers lately. But all these guys go through different stretches, and I think that's why you see different times where Simber, he'll probably be out there again tonight if they need him.
Probably
where
will be.
Garcia maybe needs a little bit more rest. So it's always different. But yeah, I don't think you see a guy more than 2 games in a row unless you're Adam Simber.
Yeah.
And to that point, you mentioned the 100 appearances for Simber. That's 100, almost 100 innings too. It's not just he showed up for one batter because of all the wonderful rules in baseball that you have to pitch 3 batters now. All that crap. So
he's just
a lot of work for him.
I think he's at 67 appearances. I said 162. That's my going joke for the rest of the season, is that he's pitched 162 games and he's ready to go again tomorrow. Because that just seems to be just every game he's out there and giving it his all.
Yeah. Now I'm curious how many. I know it's up there. He's pitched 67 innings this year. That's a lot for somebody like him, and that's got to be near his career highs as it is already. I knew he threw a lot last year. So, yeah, it's about the same as what he did last year. Right now. And there's still 2 weeks left. Well, just a little under 2 weeks.
Yeah, eight games, including today's. Yeah, so, I mean, it'll be fun to see how often he pitches. But I'm going to guess they're going to give him a little bit of a break because you want him available in your postseason. You need Simber. Right. You need a bullpen with Simber.
Yeah, which is why it's so mission critical for them to hurry up and figure it out this week. And with the Yankees in town and then having the Red Sox in town, it'd be really nice to have them clinch in the next, 4 or 5 games here, and then they can get everything in a row. The only thing that I think that you would be mission critical worrying about at that point, if let's say things don't, work out to that point, we do have the playoff spot. If you somehow have a chance at the division to get that bye, then you just go all in with whatever. But that's fading by the day. But we do have a little bit of destiny in our own hands, playing the Yankees tonight and tomorrow as well. So not out of the equation yet, but becoming less likely by the day.
Sounds good. Yep. I think we're still down at this point too. I think we're still down 2-1, I believe.
Yep. And nothing much else has changed. But to that point, we were all concerned about Barrios.
Yes.
Blue Jays dad, you've actually had visual on it, and kind of sounds like you have the game on possibly too. Me being in Blackout City, how has he been looking? Give me your give me your eyes.
I've missed a little bit of it, but I saw in the first inning, I think he struck out the third out each of the first 2 innings. So I think when you see those swing and misses for strike 3, he's on his game, and that's the thing about him, right? Is that he can go, once again, a game where he gives up a number of runs, and next game he's striking out 13 guys in 6 innings. So that's why I don't think you put Stripling ahead of him. I think you keep Rios. He's kind of your, no pun intended, wild card, to where he can give you that ace performance, but it's got to be on a short leash.
Yeah. And to that point, the nice thing you have in that situation where I agree with you as much as I kind of am pretty close to being on the fence about it. Having Barrios pitch that game is a normal role for him. If he goes out, he's lights out, that's great. Where Stripling has been used to being the guy that comes out in the bullpen with a clean inning, or even in the middle of a thick of it in the 4th or 5th inning where everything's going wild and he has to wiggle out of it. I don't think Barrios has that same Houdini effect to come out of the bullpen and have that same kind of success. And that would be my personal worry in that situation if you start Stripling and then have to throw Barrios in.
Right.
So now there's another wonderful wild card with the minor league season going and ending this week. There's only 2, I think tonight and tomorrow night are the last 2 AAA games, unless they have playoffs. Correct. I was slightly upset when I heard that.
St. Paul Saints. I never got to the St. Paul Saints. I promised Bo Barchette that he would get to go to a dog day in the park, and I was DJing on both of their bring anything on a leash games. They had 2 of them this year. Anything on a leash.
I love minor league baseball.
I was just picturing Bo sitting there just like looking at all these creatures, and he's kind of, it's sometimes his life is rough.
Oh, pun intended.
Yeah.
That was a dad joke right there. So, but to that point, I'm sorry if I just, let the cat out of the bag.
I'm buzzing.
I have kids too. I get it. So to
Interesting.
that point, though, there is an excellent chance that Nate Pearson might all of a sudden get thrown back into this conversation, as much to
Wow.
displeasure or improve. I don't care which way you so what side you sit on the fence on. But to that point, he has had a decent run since coming back with the Buffalo Bisons. He apparently, with the new rules, he technically can qualify somehow for a playoff spot because he's
Okay.
on the 40-man roster.
Right.
I believe is the new stipulation.
Yes.
Because this is the kind of fun we get to keep having as Blue Jays fans. So, with some of the lower end parts of our bullpen, Blue Jays dad, do you think that is something to the point we were just talking about, swing and miss out of our bullpen? Do you think that is something that is a current plus or a minus or an indifferent?
For Pearson, if he's
Yes.
added to the pen, I mean, obviously, if he's on his game, he's like acquiring a back end bullpen arm for the postseason. So
Correct.
that would be absolutely amazing. But I don't know, the major leagues, it's different than the minors, and he's had flashes of brilliance, but also the inability to stay healthy, and that just nags some guys. You think of back to 2015, Marcus Stroman coming back from an ACL tear in spring training, and the guy comes back in September and what was like 3-0 or 4-0. And if you look at Stroman's September stats, my goodness, he was dominant. And then he started that game 5 of the ALDS, where the bat flip game, and so
it was uncanny, by the way.
yes. So you look at anytime you can add a player who he's coming back from injury. So one of the positives of that is that he has not pitched the entire season. So his energy level is going to be different than a guy who's been going since pitchers and catchers reported back in February. I mean, he's had a lot of rest. So I think you bring in that fresh gun, and that puts him ahead of a lot of the bullpen if he can perform to his highest standard.
Yeah. So, Ken, I'm going to present you with this one. I'm going to list off some names, and you tell me if he's a plus for sure over any of these names. If you look at the back end of our bullpen, outside of our normal, these are your sure thing guys. We're looking at Mitch White is going to be looking for a home because he's not going to be in the playoff rotation, only needing, X many days with off days sprinkled in. You got Trevor Richards, who's been very in the right swing lately, but he was also going through a rough spot recently. Zach Pop, who they traded for with Anthony Bass, but Bass isn't part of this equation. And then Yusei Kikuchi. Those guys, I would think, are your tipping points. One of them is going to have to fall off the roster if you bring up Pearson. Do you think Pearson's a plus over those guys? A guy that can throw near 100 consistently, probably out of the bullpen.
Yeah, definitely sounds like it, to be honest. Like, I can't think of anything right now. Just going that list you just gave me, I'm just trying to think. I'm like, oof.
There's nothing popping at you, right?
Nothing pops
other than
at
the
me
name
right now.
Zach Pop.
Yeah.
Maybe Zach Pop.
Sorry, I'm on the dad joke roll. I got to keep it going.
Sorry, I take full responsibility.
It's all your fault, Blue Jays dad.
There you go.
So, I tend to agree with you that it's just there's nothing sparking interest in there, and you all of a sudden, to your point, we get to have somebody just mow through people. Our worst case scenario, just go out there and throw smoke for 3 batters and just hope for the best. And I would think that they're still not going to use them in any leverage or anything. This would be Barrios or whoever. You know what? You're looking like you've been dragging a little bit. You've been doing really good in the start, but you're at like 100 pitches after 5 innings or something like that. You bring somebody like Pearson in for that 6th inning where he can start it off clean, gets his 3 batters, he gets them out, or he walks a few, and then you just bring in somebody else to finish the inning. You have that kind of that window. It's kind of how I'm seeing. Is that's the only time you'd use any of those other guys that I had mentioned on that list. There is my opinion. How do you think? Anyway.
I want to see Kikuchi become the left-handed specialist.
Yeah.
I want to see him air it out for an inning. Kikuchi has swing and miss stuff. That's the biggest thing about him. It's just a matter of location. But he has stuff that's swing and miss. And I was actually really excited that the Jays acquired him. And obviously it's been not the season anyone was hoping for. But I'd like to see him just I don't know that it can happen this year, but I would love to see him become an arm to be reckoned with. Like Brett Cecil was back in 2015.
And think of how much different that series would have been if we actually had Brett Cecil for the Royals series. Not having a lefty out of that bullpen kind of hurt us during that series. And by kind of, I mean it did.
Oh, yeah. That's we lost. Well, think of that bullpen. I got mocked on Twitter the other day. I mean, I get mocked on Twitter every day. But the other day, when they were celebrating the 92 World Series, I was saying they were talking about, Timlin, Ward, and Hankey as those three. And I said, hey, I wonder if it's comparable when we had Cecil, Aaron Sanchez, and Roberto Osuna. I mean, like the game was over in the sixth inning back then in 2015. If you had a lead and you brought in those three guys, I didn't do the work of like looking up the stats and the WAR and the this and the that, but I'm gonna guess it was pretty comparable what those three guys did in 2015.
Yeah, I'd say for that season, you're definitely on point with that. Obviously, after that, 2016, it wasn't exactly the same thing. And Aaron Sanchez becoming an elite starting pitcher that next year.
Yeah, for 1 year. For 1 year.
I saw him pitch a few weeks ago here in Rochester. He's part of the Washington Nationals system, who is now, since your Twins have now moved cities, I got the Washington Nationals minor league system here. And when the Washington Nationals are trading their star players and didn't have backfill in the minors, guess who got a shot? And guess who still doesn't look like he's going to get another shot?
Well, he was with the Twins.
I loved Aaron Sanchez. I only hope the best for him, but it's rough to watch now. But then again, I also said Aaron Loop's career was over 6 years ago, and we all know that he's got a nice lucrative contract with the Angels now.
You may have known this, but I was in Anaheim for the 4-game set this year, and the Jays won all 4. I was 4-0 to start the season, and it was like a throwback time machine. Ryan Tepera and Aaron Loop, and they make a big deal about both of those guys there, and I'm like, what is this? This is like a
what year is it?
Exactly.
They had a hitter of ours from the 2015 for a bit too. Were they the team that started with Ryan Goins at the beginning of the year too?
I do not.
I know he's technically in the Braves system because Anthopoulos had to have him.
Yeah, just doing him a favor for all the key moments that he played for the Jays. But,
here's your pat on the back.
There you go.
I don't know. I don't know where Goins was to start the season.
I want to say it was a Blue Jays hitter from 2015-16 that was also in their spring training camp, because I remember seeing it watching spring training games is what I recalled. Okay. I'm like, what? Like I did that same effect you did. What year is it? And why are their jerseys red? Is it Canada Day?
Yeah, exactly. Josh Donaldson is up right now, and I got in trouble on Twitter last night for suggesting that I wouldn't be unhappy if Josh Donaldson hit a home run. And I paid for that tweet.
So then clearly none of those Blue Jays fans are actually the thousands of listens that John Gibbons got that week for having Josh Donaldson on his podcast.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, just look back and think about having bad throw, pull the run first baseman off. Just to think back about having Bautista and Donaldson on the same team, like those two attitudes.
My favorite, Edwin.
I don't want to leave Edwin out, but
that's murder's row for a baseball lineup right there.
But those guys that you hate unless they're on your team. They're on your team. You love them. It's like they're standing behind you. They're standing in front of you, beside you, to win. And
Exactly.
that's why I will never let go of my love for Jose Bautista and for Josh Donaldson. They're gamers. They're winners, and they rub people the wrong way because they're winners.
Yeah, well,
I believe the exact quote was, "If you don't like it, play better."
Yeah.
Well, you know what, guys? Sorry, I haven't said something in a while. You know who I miss? I miss the Whamco days. We won the first World Series. Can't go wrong with that.
No, you can't.
I was trying so hard to come up with a cool acronym like that on this show in 2016 for that, and I couldn't do it. There's no vowels. It's like, what the shit is this?
How long did you spend on that?
It was I kept trying to do it and make stupid.
You can see it. He's trying.
Episodes. I'm sure if you went back into like about the episode 120 to 130 ballpark, you would find it. So, and to that point, I'll leave you with this one, and you guys can sound off with me, just like Blue Jays fans. And then we have a reoccurring game on this. That I actually sent in John Gibbons' way the other day through Twitter, and he's pondering it. He hasn't had an answer for me yet. He goes, "I really have to think of this one." It is literally, everybody's got a podcast, it seems like these days. John Gibbons all of a sudden has a podcast. There's about 50,000 Blue Jays podcasts, and they all have fun, clever, weird names. So one of the handshakes that I've been trying to get going in Blue Jays Twitter has been, take two people affiliated with the Blue Jays. Could be managers, coaches, front office people, players, whatever it is. Take two Blue Jays personas and name the podcast they do together.
Oh, wow.
Oh, geez.
Like I said, you don't have to give me an answer now. Just keep that one churning, and if you got something fun, we'll tweet it out. You know what I mean? So the one, just to give you food for thought.
Now I'm not going to sleep tonight. I blame you.
Got it. So sorry. But it's a fun game that I've been playing with everybody. And I'm just going to give you a couple I thought of that I, have gotten the pleasure of time to keep evaluating. So one of them was, funny enough, because I have to say this one because now he has a podcast, John Gibbons with Shea Hillenbrand, and Is This Ship Sinking?
Golf clap that one.
Another one, and because we are
you got a standing ovation there, Craig. Look at that.
Tip the hat.
It's because
tip the hat.
You have to be in Blue Jays media news and whatnot and know that stupid story of him writing that on the whiteboard and then John Gibbons slipping out and getting Shea Hillenbrand traded 5 minutes later to know that joke. So the other one I think of, and we were talking about him a few minutes ago, Nori Kawasaki and Mark DeRosa. Oh, we already love this pair. There's the famous, interview after it, which is the inspiration for this show title. Is I think I'm turning Japanese.
Bravo.
So
bravo.
Use that for food for thought. And
I think it's something for the next
I've used
episode
that
there.
Yeah, there you go. I've used that for a few various other things in like our fantasy baseball group. I threw that out in there this year to be goofing around. It was baseball in general, and there was somebody in the middle of the draft would be like, "Oh," and then throw out, and everybody would just start, cheersing and throwing out beer names and stuff like that. It's hilarious. So, food for thought. But anyway, before I give you guys your shameless self-promoting plugs or joke spots. I want to talk about the series that we have going this week, where we're going, hopefully moving toward this Blue Jays playoff berth here as we wrap the hour here in a minute. The Yankees are currently up 3-1.
3-1.
We have one more game against them tomorrow, and I had it in front of me, but does anybody recall who's starting tomorrow?
It's Cole and Mitch White.
But we have a guy that wouldn't go by the Audi sign, and a guy that hopefully will at least throw it past it. So, to that point, hopefully we get some kind of a squeak win out of this tonight. How do you guys see that game going tomorrow? Is this gloom and doom, or is that the Aaron Judge 61 home run? And place your wagers now.
I don't know. I hope not tomorrow for Aaron Judge. Sorry, just don't want it to be a Blue Jay pitcher. hit next series, just not us.
It's only one more game. Just get him out of town, and he can hit it against the Orioles. I think they have next. I'd have to look, but I think they're playing somebody else in the division. Would be a safe bet. So, but yeah, I don't know where it's going to go in the next 24 hours, but I think if they have to win a game tonight, it would be more efficient for them to be hurry up and trying to figure out Jameson Taillon versus trying to figure out Garrett Cole. Yes, they've had good success against Garrett Cole this year, but it is that chance that, hey, he is a legit ace for a starting rotation. And if the Yankees have then lost 2 games, he's going to come out trying his hardest to win that game and get them back on point. Stopper. So I would think that hopefully they can figure out something tonight. But do you guys see that coming? It's a 3-1 comeback right now, technically, but is that home? This Blue Jays fandom has been crazy in the Dome the last few days.
Yeah, I'm hoping we can pull it out at the end. Like they seem to like to get the drama right near the end. I used to like to think, why can't we just win by a lot and just relax into the game end? But no, the Jays got to make it work for us. So then we got to start. Our blood pressure starts going up and down, trying to figure out what's going to happen right near the end. So I think they're going to follow suit. If we do pull it off, it's going to be near the end, unfortunately.
Yeah. What do you think of Blue Jays, Dad?
Yeah, I think. I think they have a shot to win both games. Cole's given up a lot of home runs this year. The Jays have hit a lot of homers, so that's kind of my only hope there. I think there's still a scenario alive that both the Yankees and the Blue Jays could clinch tomorrow night on the same field. That'd be kind of fun to see the AL East and a postseason berth being clinched at the same time. Obviously, you don't want to see the opposing team celebrate in your house, but it'd be unique.
Basically, one more Yankees win when the Blue Jays lose is a clinched division title for the New York Yankees. Just for anybody that hasn't been privy, they are currently 7.5 games ahead of us right now. As you mentioned a few minutes ago, there's 8 games left. Math sucks.
They're not going to win the division.
I said it wasn't technically impossible,
but fingers crossed. I mean, hey, I want the Jays to get all the way if we could.
Yeah, those couple dings against the Rays over this past weekend really put a hampering on that fact. So, but yeah, yes. Blue Jays, Dad, where you were, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. I was really hoping that the Jays would, make a challenge for the East. Were they 4.5 or 4 or 3.5? They were getting really close. And obviously, not much of a chance left, but I'm not going to give up hope. But I guess so tonight, if the Jays don't win, then that scenario is not possible tomorrow. So Jays got to win the night, and then if Yankees win tomorrow night, I think that's when both teams clinch. And then I guess the Orioles would have to lose once. Anyway.
There is that because the
no.
Yeah, they're out of the division right now, so you don't have to worry about them in that equation. I was trying to pull up tonight's full scoreboard so you can do your scoreboard watching and see what the Mariners and the Orioles and everybody were doing for the remnants of the wild card. And of course, everything just went silly.
Of course.
Why would the computer work? Yeah, because right now the Tampa Bay Rays are the second wild card spot, but they're only holding on to it by a half a game over the Seattle Mariners. And then the Baltimore Orioles are only 3.5 back. So
yeah, they got an uphill battle.
Thing is, Seattle doesn't play any of those teams over the next week. So they have to continue just to churn the crank and win. Right now, the Tampa Bay Rays are winning. In the bottom of going into the 7th inning, they're winning against the Cleveland Guardians 4-3. So that's still not any kind of a close to a clinch. The Orioles are losing to the Red Sox, so that might be the kiss of death. Thank you, Red Sox, for just knocking one more team out of the race after they've been mathematically eliminated. That was fun to say. And then where's the Mariners? Oh, the Mariners are, playing the Rangers at home, so they're not even in the ballpark of starting yet. So good hour before that game even gets underway. But to that point, the Blue Jays are in perfect standing to take that wild card first position for that, getting around the little 3-game playoff series that the other two teams got to play with each other, and then we would get the winner of that series, and then hopefully the rest goes to plan.
Fingers crossed.
Biggest problem with that whole thing is whoever wins that wild card gets to go through Houston next, and that's no day at the park.
No.
But if they clinch the first wild card spot, the best thing that will happen is we will not have to play another game at Tropicana Field.
Yeah,
that was officially over with by Sunday.
Yeah,
you were happy to leave as soon as that happened.
Yeah, exactly.
In the COVID shortened season 2020, remember they had their one postseason series was in at the Trop, and they lost the first two games. They were out. And Jansen had all their RBIs. He had 2 home runs, 3 RBIs.
Yes, he did.
That was it. That was it for the run scoring was Danny Jansen.
Sneaky though, Nate Pearson had an amazing inning in that game.
Oh,
sneaky.
Like
So playoff experience, Nate Pearson. There you go. Yeah. So anyway, guys, unless you have any topics Blue Jay related you would like to add, I'm ready to give you your plug time. All right, Ken, you want to go first? Sure, other than this was your first audition for being on the show.
Absolutely. I had a great time with it, you guys. I felt like I learned a lot. I felt I got at least 5% smarter listening to you guys. So as long as that's there, 4 episodes, I'll get smarter. Eventually, I'll be more competent by the time the season's over. But
and his Blue Jays brain grew 3 sizes that day.
There you go. But aside from that, listeners can reach me on the SME Stories podcast. That's my podcast that I do right now on all your major podcast players, where it talks about, well, not about baseball, but about small businesses. And it used to be just about Canada, but now it's turning into small businesses in North America. So listen to me there, and you can reach out to me at northwaycapitalgroup@gmail.com for anything you might need.
Good deal, Ken.
Especially for voice.
Pleasure having you on this show. Oh, there it is. And Mr. Blue Jays Dad, give us your shameless Twitter and podcast plug for yourself.
Yeah, you can follow me on the Twitter at Blue Jays Dad, and that's where I do most of my stuff because it's the easiest. Yeah, and also like whatever other social media channels, and I think I have one TikTok video from a couple of years ago. And
it's mostly Bo Bark-Bichette, but
yes, Bo Bark-Bichette. We got him as a puppy this Christmas. That took over my accounts for a while. And then my podcast, which I don't have any episodes for this season, is called the Blue Jays Dadcast. And but my main thing I've been going for lately is live Twitter Spaces. So for anyone that doesn't know what a Twitter Space is, it's just a live audio conversation. So there's no camera or anything you got to be afraid of. And you don't have to talk. Your microphone doesn't need to be on. You can just listen, but you can also request to speak. And I love having as many Blue Jays fans and fans of the opposition that want to get in on the conversation. I'd love to have you on and have a big conversation around the game. So for this final 8 games of the season and for the postseason, I'm hoping to be on after every game to continue the conversation about the Blue Jays.
Yeah, good deal, sir. And to that point, we hope to be joining in on that a little bit more too here at the Jay Bird Watching podcast, and merge Blue Jays minds. So good deal. Well, thank you very much, fellas, for coming on the show, and it's been a great time. Obviously, we had way too many shenanigans this evening, so I guess we're going to have to do this again sometime soon.
Absolutely.
And to that point, Blue Jays Nation, we are here every week. It's usually a Monday or Tuesday. We do a live recording. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and YouTube, and you can join in on the conversation. I thank the few people that did chime in and weren't too shy this evening on the Twitter feed and whatnot. So thank you very much. In the meantime, if you don't catch the live show, every live show is literally copied, pasted out to the podcasting universe. So make sure you get us wherever you get your podcasting pleasures from, Spotify, Apple, whatever it might be. Or if you're just the one that's going obscure and getting Radio Public or whatever it is, go for it. We'll be there. And until again, guys, the tradition here is always ending the show with 2 claps and a Ric Flair a la Caleb Joseph. So I will do a 1, 2, 3, and we'll do a Let's Go Blue Jays. All right. 1, 2, 3.